and welcome to the Old Fashioned Health Network. Good health inside and out. I'm Gwen McDaniel, your host for the Senior Living Show, and I am so excited to have with us today our guest, Christina Charlie.
Thank you very much.
It is so great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Christina is with the Forefront, get this right,
Yes.
Forefront Healthcare of Atlanta.
Yes.
And they are doing some extremely unique work. Some work that oftentimes people really don't understand, but the work that they do really fills the heart of families. And you know, Christina, I'm familiar with this because approximately 8 years ago, I was in a position to where I experienced the service of a hospice facility.
Okay.
My husband had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Sorry.
And at that time, he and I discussed whether he wanted to go into a hospice facility or whether he wanted to be in a hospital. And because of the nature of his illness, we chose the hospice facility.
Okay.
And I gotta tell you, that was one of the most interesting but most humane, I think, way to allow him to transition and allow the family to be a part of that whole experience. I learned a lot. We were sharing a lot with families, and it's such a special business. We thought that we should share this with our audience and be able to help them understand more about what this service can provide for their families in a time like this.
Yeah.
So I am really excited to have you with us to help us share this with our audience.
Well, thank you. I'm excited too, and I agree. Hospice it needs to be clarified for a lot of people because it's such a great benefit, especially for end-of-life planning and end-of-life care. Not only for the person, but for their family as well.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it did for us. I tell you, let's start by explaining what hospice is.
Sure.
And, just tell us the difference in the hospice services, why it may benefit the family versus going into a hospital.
Sure. Hospice is for those with a terminal illness that has been diagnosed by their physician, and it's a service covered under most insurances and even Medicare, Medicaid, or even privately if that's a service you want to bring on. It's not a place. It's not this building you go to, which is sometimes a misconception. It's not, hey, these are the people coming to take me out. It's nothing like that. Hospice has different services such as social services that can help you with community resources, a chaplain that can help you spiritually and can meet you where you are, so it's not a certain denomination or religion. There's nursing services, definitely, skilled services where the nurse can come where the patient is, so this can be in your home, or if you want to go to a inpatient unit, that's fine too. And of course they help you with everything, all of your what we call activities of daily living, so that the basic premises is to provide you with comfort, provide your family with education, help them through this grieving process, because a lot of us don't understand the dying process or what some of these illnesses, the side effects of them and how they present themselves. And it can be very scary to watch your loved one die, but with the proper education, the proper support, the proper medications to help make that transition as smooth, remove all suffering, that's what hospice is.
That's so interesting because the facility that we went to, we chose to go to an inpatient care facility.
Sure.
And the thing that was so interesting is that they educated us.
Yes.
I mean, they told us what to expect. They gave us materials. They explained that sometimes people may come there and they may get up and go home. I mean, it's not a place where it's final, depending on what the patient is going through.
Right.
But they loved it. It was amazing. It was like a family environment, and we knew that they were there caring for us as much as caring for our family member.
So true, but I've been involved with many families over the last 13 years, and I will say, at one point I was like, the patient usually gets it. They've lived this, they've accepted where they are. It's the families that we have to bring in our embrace and comfort them and give them the education. And there's no way you can bond that much with people and it not become a family type atmosphere.
Right. And what was also so interesting is the fact that people who had gone through this before wanted to give back so much.
So true.
You know, we wanted to come back later and we would bring flowers, we would bring food and leave it for the families. And that was amazing to me. I'd never been in an environment where I saw people really reach out and love other families they knew nothing about, but everybody there was willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, it helps with the grieving process as well. If I can help lend a helping hand or a helping ear or a nice hug or a smile to someone who I know is experiencing the same thing that I've gone through is one of the most rewarding ways to help usher yourself through the grieving process as well.
So now, do you all go into homes?
Definitely. Most people prefer to go home. Even when you ask the patient, sometimes the patients are still able to tell you what my wishes are, and they want to go home. And that's fine. Go to your environment where you have the most peace, where your family is, and we'll come there and provide you with the services that come under the plan of care set forth by your physician and your nurse.
That's interesting. I was looking at some of your other services. I noticed you are an RN.
Yes.
And so you've been out here with the Healthcare of Atlanta, Forefront Healthcare Atlanta for
I've been with Forefront. Well, I've only been with Forefront for a couple months.
Okay.
But I've been, I'm from Alabama, so I started there in the hospitals and with our local hospice agencies there. And then I came to Atlanta, finished school, and now I'm back with Forefront. I've been in various different arenas of nursing, because nursing can take you so many places. However, I keep finding myself coming back to hospice. It's very rewarding. I wouldn't give it up for anything. And especially with this show, I'm so glad to be able to reach so many people who may not have even considered what their end-of-life wishes are, because you're never too young to make those known. And hospice can also help families with that, because that's one of the hardest decisions I've seen families make, is what to do for their loved one when they can't speak for themselves. And no one wants to make that such a finite decision.
Absolutely.
So if you can, and if I encourage everyone watching the show, or even the people you love, if you can make your wishes known, make them plain, put them on paper, get them notarized, please do so. That takes so much pressure off of your loved ones.
It does.
And we respect your wishes as well, and that's what we really want to do.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
And we'll come back and talk about some of the myths that people have about hospice, not really understanding all the service that you provide.
Sure.
And so we'll be back in just a moment.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Old Fashioned Health Network, where we're talking with Christina Charlie of Forefront Healthcare of Atlanta. And our topic today has been centered around hospice, and there's a lot of misconceptions about the benefit of hospice. And Christina has been sharing with us some of the unique work that their facility does. I've had my own personal experiences with it. And I was wondering, Christina, are there any restrictions to that limit the type of service that a patient can receive?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because one of the clarifications that some people need is what hospice is and what hospice isn't. So I'll give you an example. If you have a diagnosis of cancer, you can choose to let the disease process run its course and seek no aggressive treatment, which would include chemotherapy, radiation, radical surgeries, things like that. But there's nothing wrong with choosing that by any means. It's definitely your decision. So if you choose that, you wouldn't qualify for hospice. However, if you decide at any point that, you know what, I've accepted this disease process. I no longer want to seek aggressive treatment. I've made my decisions plain on paper. Hospice is definitely for you. So that the nurse can come in and help you with your wishes, your final plans, and your family help and cope with this end of life decision that you've made. But just because you choose hospice does not mean that's a finite decision as well. At any point you can say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I want chemotherapy. I want to go back to the doctor. No one will be mad at you. We'll give you the correct forms to fill out and encourage you to seek whatever treatment that's best for you.
So that just takes away that myth.
Yes.
One of those myths that a lot of people have, because as I've talked to some of my friends and we talk about hospice, there are some who say hospice is only for people that's dying.
Right.
And so, as you mentioned, it's not just for folks who are immediately dying.
Right.
Explain that to our audience.
Well, sure. Technically, to be qualified for hospice services, you do have to have what is described as a terminal diagnosis. Now, there is a wide range of diagnoses that can be. So if that's a decision that, hey, this is something that's finite, I need to discuss it with my doctor. Always discuss it with your doctor. And they can let you know if hospice is appropriate for your diagnosis.
Sure. So we do know that one myth is not correct, right?
No.
And so then one of the other ones is when someone goes into hospice,
Sure.
People consider that's final. That's not, there's no other hope. And
No.
I think that's why sometimes the patient may even get discouraged about the idea of going into hospice because they think that that's a place to go and immediately transition.
Yeah, and that's so not true, and it's one of the messages I try to clarify for patients when I go out to meet with them. And this decision is not finite. You can change your mind again and again and again, and we will still be there to support you the same day we were the first day we met you. Because it's about the patient. This is a huge decision to make. Sometimes we have no control over it, but one of, not the worst, but one of the things that I see that happens is it's way too late to accept hospice. And well, there's never too late, but if we had come in the earlier months, this transition could have been a lot smoother for not only you, but also your family.
Well, one of the things that I saw, the value that I saw was in the fact that as a family, we had all made this decision, this final decision, that that's where he would like to go, rather than knowing if he had been in the hospital, he'd been wired all up, tubes all in him, and all of that. And to us, it just seemed like a more humane thing to do.
Exactly.
We talked, we laughed, we played music. We allowed that time that he was there to be the living moment.
Right.
And family came in, and the hospital won't let as many people as we had in that hospice facility.
Whether it's in your house or in an inpatient unit, we say bring the mamas, the uncles, the cousins, bring the dog, bring whoever can fit in this room.
We brought the dog because our dog was actually going through depression.
They do.
He knew that my husband was ill before we even knew it. And so they allowed us to bring the dog.
Yes.
They allowed us to share, and family came in from out of town or whatever. Some of them spent the night. It was to us one of the most humane ways for us to accept the fact that he was transitioning. And they allowed us that time, and we were able to pray together, and it was just that final moment for us to talk about things that even we had not talked about.
So glad you got to experience the best of hospice and be able to share that with people, because that's so important. Like you said, you come back and you meet with the other families and you can explain the same thing, because sometimes no matter how much you prepare for it, it's still scary.
It's still scary and it's still hard.
Yes.
One of the last questions I'd like to ask, we did experience the bereavement counseling opportunities. So what do you all have for that?
Definitely. Grieving sometimes, of course, can start before death occurs. And definitely we reach out at different times to not only give you space, but to also give you support. So we mandate ourselves for at least a year and a half, but honestly, because everyone grieves differently and they're at different points in their acceptance with what has happened, we're there for as long as you need us. Honestly, some people, they say, hey, thank you, I got it. And they don't need anything else. We're still here. And then others take a lot longer, and that's okay. We won't turn you away just because your loved one is gone.
Absolutely. Well, that is great to hear, and I'd like for our audience to just be mindful that
Yes.
these services are available, and that there's another way for you to look at, the health of your loved one, or transitioning if you're at that point.
Right.
But seek out assistance.
Yes.
There are several. The Forefront Healthcare of Atlanta is a definite place to get some information, and Christina welcomes the calls, the questions that you all may have. But we hope that this information has been resourceful for you.
Yes.
And as usual, we'll bring you other information that will help your families in various areas of your health and wellness. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure.
Anytime.
And I really appreciate you coming and sharing this valuable information with our audience.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.